Okay, we've just seen today that all the UK companies that have more than 250 staff have all been forced by the British government to give the, I think it's the mean, what they're paying their male and their female staff. So that they're being forced. This has probably cost them money. Did the British government give them money to be able to do this? Probably not. It's by law you've got to do this. If you don't, you get fined. So this is an article, 8 ways to narrow the gender pay gap. Let's go through this, because when you see it, you'll be quite interested in the nonsense. Thanks to the gender pay gap reporting requirements, we now know that 78% of UK firms pay their male staff more than their female workers. And I think most people knew that. I mean, it doesn't really take this report. Most people knew that men get paid more. And the reason why men get paid more is they take less holiday, they work much more longer hours, so they're doing much more overtime. And also, it is shown that men take less sick than women. So, but this information was not gathered. Nobody asked, right, let's see the figures of how many, what the, how women actually, the holiday that women take, how much sick time women take. Forget about pregnancy. We're talking about single women from the ages of 20 to 40 or 45, 50, and who are not married, don't have any children. And then those are married and have children. Why wasn't this work asked for? All this data, all this information. How many hours a single woman worked against how many hours a working mother worked. None of this information was asked for. They just asked for the pure average of firms of 250 or more through the whole country. So here we go. So what can firms do realistically to change? Why should they? Why should they do anything? Because really, look, let's go through this, because I know exactly what this is going to lead to. Better childcare. That's the number one. So this is their 8 ideas. Better childcare. Let's go. Many women do not have access to proper childcare, especially for antisocial hours. So what? I mean, everything is about childcare. They want the government to provide childcare. But years ago, it used to be the grandmother that used to look after the children, or the grandparents that used to help to look after the children. And yet, now, they all want to leave it to the state to provide this. You want to hand over your child to that woman. But hold on a minute. Not all women have got kids. There are some women who don't want any children. What about them? Are they not working the hours? You see, this is the point. We don't see this from the stats. What about single women who are not married, who don't intend to get married, who don't intend to have children ever, and work until they're 65 or, and then retire and whatever? Where are those figures? What does this actually do? All this report is that it's going to rile the feminists even more. It's going to rile those young women who see feminism as their religion even more. This doesn't really do anything, because at the end of the day, in order to change, they're going to alienate men who have done absolutely nothing wrong but to do the work to get this country up to the stage of where it is, a first world country. The fact that many men go to work for one reason, to feed and clothe their family. Those that are married, that is. I mean, those that are not married but are in a relationship and they have a couple of kids, they think of their family. That's the reason why they go to work, to earn the money, to get the money for the family, ultimately for the wife or the girlfriend, so that they can build a home, look after the children. And the more money that the guy gets, the better the family reward comes from this. And if the woman is working as well, which can add to the pot of them getting, um, ultimately a better life for everybody in the family. I mean, otherwise, why would men really work? Some men literally work 6, 7 days a week. There are builders that I know that go to different parts of the country and they work virtually 6 days a week, 7 days a week, or 6 days a week. And if their family are based in London and they go and work in Sheffield or Manchester or whatever, it's not practical to come back home. They'll be working there for 2, 3 months on a job, come back for a week or 2 weeks to see the family, and then go back to work again, if they can do that. How many women do that? What? How many women lorry drivers are there out there? Have you seen what lorry drivers have to do? Working up and down, delivering, working through the night. Sometimes they're working through the night and they have to stop their vehicle wherever, park up, because they've reached, and they're sitting. Some of them are not doing any exercise, but they're working every day like that. So let's keep on with this. Many women do not have access to proper childcare, especially for antisocial hours. Higher paid management positions often require extended or flexible hours, leaving many women accepting lower paid jobs as the price for regular working patterns. The provision of childcare enables you to get out to work, which enables you to get promoted into a better paid job. This woman, Sheila Wild, founder of the Equal Pay Portal. Women get paid equally. It's illegal for women not to be paid equally. In other words, if women are getting £10 an hour and a man is doing the same job, he will get £10 an hour. That's how it works. Obviously, when you go into higher management, you can negotiate the pay. Ultimately, that affects the gender pay gap. Now, listen to this. Number 2, better recruitment. Many recruitment agencies fail to mention that the job is female friendly. For example, fewer than 10% of adverts make any reference to flexible working. Oh, Jesus Christ. So what, I mean, I don't really know what what this government wants to do. What do women want to do? Do they want to literally throw men out of all the jobs in this country, and that all men stay at home and look after the children? But if you don't have any children, do they still want to throw men out of the workplace completely, so that it's all female? What will that achieve? If you had just an all-female workforce, like you have in schools, literally 85% or more of primary school is made up of females. Primary schools. Secondary schools is about the same, 75, 80, I think. I'm not sure of the real figures. But the point is, the reason why schools are failing is because of lack of discipline. Lack of discipline. Anybody who says to me that today's schooling is better than that was in the 50s, the 40s, okay, it started going downhill when it went co-ed, when schools were forcing, to go comprehensive, boys and girls schools were merged. The quality of education today, I'm sorry, is shit in comparison to back then. And even women of older women will tell you the same thing. They will tell you that the schooling of back home was far better than it is today. Far better. The schooling has reduced the quality to meet girls' standards. The solution to this problem is this: remove all men from the workplace, all men, and put women in. Because what they're talking about is constantly nonsense. It just seems to be always about the middle and upper management of women. I saw on the TV there on Sky that TSB, the higher management is mostly men. Yet in the actual shop floor, in the banks themselves, it's mostly women. What do they want? So if it's mostly women in those positions, they now want to make the upper management, which is mainly men, remove them from those positions and put women. It's very, very annoying, all this. I really worry about what's going to happen to men in British society. Will they stand up one day and realise that they're being railroaded into, or people are trying, the effeminates, the male feminists are basically killing themselves? They're going to become obsolete. Even though man is the perfect working machine, he doesn't have periods. He doesn't suffer massive mood swings. He concentrates on his job. All this is going to be replaced by women. For what reason? The reason is feminism. That's it, plain and simple. The feminist movement is getting what it wants, which is to be dominant, to get rid of the so-called patriarchy. Yet, 93% of all workplace deaths are men. Has anybody addressed that? Has anybody from the feminist movement said, God, look at the 93% of workplace deaths are men. Did you know that prostate cancer is now, I think, if I remember, the third biggest killer in the UK of men, pushing breast cancer into fourth. But get this, breast cancer gets double the funding that prostate cancer gets. Why? Because they completely ignored the the illness of prostate cancer for men. Because it doesn't matter. They don't care. Okay? It's a silent killer of men. Okay? Yet breast cancer gets all the publicity. Everybody knows about it left, right. There's people running in the parks wearing pink for women. But what about prostate cancer for men? They're not bothered about it, they don't care about it. See, the only reason why heart attacks for men is so prominent is because of what it is. Someone drops down on the floor in the middle of the street. Men, unfortunately, it happens. They seem to be the ones who are falling in the middle of the street from heart attacks on the bus, on the train, on the plane. And so it has been prominent. But I think then they complain that they say, women don't get highlighted, that they too have heart attacks. It's always the fault of men. Let's continue. This idiot, Peter Cheese, chief executive of the Chartered Institute for Personal and Development, who I believe is homosexual, believes adverts could be much better worded. There's a lot of evidence to show that unintentionally many of the words used to describe jobs can be excluding of women. Really? Let's continue. Or make them think that the job is much more male oriented, which reinforces male stereotypes. That is complete and total fucking shit. Complete and total fucking shit. One of the things I have to be honest with you, I have yet to see a female on a building site pulling in cables. I'm not saying there aren't, Cat5 cables, telephone cables, electrical cables. I'm sure there are women electricians, but I have yet to see a female electrician on the site. I've seen female surveyors. You see them quite a few on building sites. But I've yet to see a female brickie. Oh no, I've seen one female brickie. But that's it. I haven't seen a female joiner. I haven't seen a female plumber. I haven't seen really a female electrician, etc., etc. Okay. I've seen a female do it in the AA. Now, the AA is a brilliant job for a woman could train as a mechanic, do a course in mechanical, train as a mechanic with the firm, and then go and work for the AA. Because I was speaking to a guy from the AA. He was 32. He'd worked for a firm for 6 years, had been earning 25 grand. A friend had come round to his house. He was a mechanic, and he had somehow got into training with the AA, was fully trained, and he said to him, "Why don't you train to work with the AA?" Went and trained with the AA. The guy is now earning 44 grand a year, nearly double what he was earning with his other firm. His van is fully kitted. And basically, the only faults he basically does, he goes to the vehicle, it's usually battery issue. If it's starter motor, the parts that he has are probably very small. If it's a starter motor issue, and he has it for that particular model, for that vehicle, he might be able to change it. Maybe not. But usually it's about towing the vehicle to another location. And if it's too big, it gets another vehicle. But anyway, this is just rubbish. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, because I feel what this thing will really must say is we must remove men from the workplace. That's the solution. That's the only solution for this so-called gender pay gap, is to remove men. All the men in these companies need to be removed. Everybody up to the end and below. Salary transparency. Publication of the gender pay gap may be the start of a move towards greater salary transparency. Many women are likely to be unaware that male colleagues earn more than they do. Fine, bring that in. Let everybody know what each person is earning, because when they do decide to pay women more money, regardless. So in other words, the equal pay that men and women are getting at the moment. Woman works an hour, she gets £10. A man works 1 hour, he gets £10. If they're advocating that they pay women £2, £3, £4 more per hour, so she gets £15 an hour and he gets £10 an hour. If men don't stand up at that point, men will truly be finished as a species on this planet. Truly be finished. You see, you look at the tennis, for instance. When they brought in that women get paid exactly the same as men for the prize money in Wimbledon, it wasn't a problem. But they still kept that women were played 3 sets and the men played 5. So hold on a minute, that's not equal pay. Women are getting more money for doing less work. Isn't that what they were complaining about? Men are the same thing. Why should women get $1 million prize money for playing 3 sets, and the men get $1 million and play 5 sets? After 10 years, this has been simmering secretly amongst the male players. And that's why they had that meeting where they shut the doors, they threw out the press and anybody else who was going to report on it, because they wanted to discuss amongst themselves. Now, we don't know what went on in that meeting. That was amongst themselves, and I'm glad they did that, because guess what? Natarova, whatever her bloody name is, complained and said, oh, the men should have brought the women in there as well to discuss the pay. Keeping the women out of the discussion of pay was wrong. She said they dealt with this problem 10 years ago. Men should just accept it. She also made a complaint that John McEnroe, who was the face of Wimbledon, I think last year, was paid, I think, 130,000, maybe 150, and she was paid 15,000. But what she failed to state, that John McEnroe made over 100 and odd appearances during that period of time, and she made only 10, 15 appearances. So that's why she was paid 15 grand. But all we heard from some of the idiots in the comments, how can she, why is there such a huge pay disparity? Again, because people don't read the reasons why. John McEnroe was the face of Wimbledon. It could have been her, but they didn't choose her. They chose John McEnroe. Maybe next year, or maybe this year, they might choose her. Okay, but he was commenting. Everybody knows who John McEnroe is. Everybody knows who Natarova is. But He is the most famous of the past tennis players. And for the BBC to get him, quite frankly, at that price, okay, I mean, he could have been offered. He may have been offered even more money by, I don't know, CBS or CNN or wherever it is, one of those American organisations. But he decided to work with the BBC because of Wimbledon. So people don't want to know the facts. They just want to get angry straight away without seeing the facts. And this is what this report about the gender pay gap, women are going to look at that and say 78% of males are paid more. Well, didn't you know that? Everybody knows that. Men have been in the workplace for millennia. Women came en masse after World War II, even more during the 60s. Okay? But many of these things can be explained, but they don't want to. You see, the most important thing that the feminist, and you see, the feminist movement relies on lies, pure propaganda. It's very important that this perception is kept up that that women are discriminated at every single level. When the facts are there, the information is there. All of these things can be explained, and they're not down to discrimination. Some of it may be, but 95% or more is down to circumstances. Women make different life choices. Okay? But hey, what this will do is it will alienate men more and more. It will say to men, you know what? Don't bother getting yourself married to women. Don't be marrying women. You don't need to be marrying women. You don't need to be settling down. Get yourself a flat. Get yourself a house. Live on there on your own. Okay? If you have someone that you have a relationship with, by all means, but you're not going to marry that woman. You're going to damn make sure that you don't get pregnant. She doesn't get pregnant by you. Because I'm hoping that when the male pill comes through, men will take it. They won't rely on women to take the pill. They will take the male pill themselves. There are guys who will take that so that they don't impregnate her. So she will no longer be in charge of the pill taking, whether she takes it or not, whether she uses that situation to get herself pregnant to then entrap the guy. I think the male pill is long overdue, and it will be a game changer in society. Keep up with this, because all you're doing is, if it is going to piss off the feminists and other women, it will eventually piss off men. Men will get tired of this. They'll get tired of this. Targets. Some companies have announced recruitment targets. Here you go. So in other words, positive discrimination. Lloyds Banking Group has promised to have 40% of its senior roles filled by women by 2020. How well is that going? So they've got a couple of years to go. So they're going to throw any woman in those positions, regardless. However, Fiona Hathorn, Managing Director of Women on Boards UK, believes some such targets are unrealistic. Really? Why are they unrealistic? Please tell. For example, a company trying to recruit female engineers might find too few graduates in the market. Really? Why is that? I mean, if 60% of university places are being filled by women, why are they not able to find female engineers? The reason being because women are choosing dumbass degrees like women gender studies, female gender studies, as degrees, lesbian yoga as degrees. And they don't seem to work. Let's continue. Setting targets for women in leadership positions is sensible. Why? Why is it sensible? Why should it be? Why isn't this allowed to occur if it's going to occur naturally, organically? But we need to have sensible targets. So this is the feminist agenda. Erode. But what will occur when you've eroded all the power, supposed power, that men have in society? What will this ultimately achieve, especially for women in the West? Especially for women in the West. Setting targets for women in leadership positions is sensible, but we need to have sensible targets. And some of these targets can alienate men. So there's an admission that some of these things are going to piss guys off. Men, you need to wake up. These people are trying to erase you from this planet, exterminate you from this planet. That's what this feminist agenda is about. Instead, Miss Hathorn advocates what she calls proxymetrics, alternative ways of measuring progress. What a load of shit. What a load of shit. Even though women might remain in a minority in senior positions. See, they've got this senior position fixation. They really, really have. Progress has been made even more. Progress has been made if more are coming in for job interviews, or indeed if more men are taking paternity leave, allowing their partners to work. But what does that mean? It's just nonsense. If the guy's going to take time off, the maximum that he's going to have for so-called paternity leave is what? I think, is it a month? Or is it 2 weeks? Or a month? I mean, I'm an advocate of, for women, if a woman has had a child, then the father needs to be there to help with, because obviously modern families today, very few of the grandmothers are there to help out because they live far away or whatever. But he will still need to go back to work. What then? Who's going to look after the children and the wife? Will the wife now hand over, a 3-month-old child or a 6-month-old child over to a nanny because she wants to go out to work? I mean, even some women, if they're given the option of working from home for a company, may not want that because they have to work at the company's, they'll have to be at their desk, depending on what they're doing. when they need to breastfeed the child, when they need to clean the child, they look after the child. Whereas if they have their own business, they can operate how they want to operate. They maybe have a helper in with her as they're looking after the child, etc., etc. Um, because if you work for a company and you work from home, there are rules. You have to be at your computer and working at all times. Calls will be diverted to your phone from the company, etc., etc. So that may not always work. You know. Instead, right. So even though many, etc., etc., or yeah. So nonsense. Number 5. This is the bit that I've been waiting to get. Pay women more. What do they mean by pay women more? Do they mean if a man is earning £10 per hour, a woman is earning £10 an hour, should we pay that woman £15 an hour because she's a woman? Even though she might do, I don't know, 50, say 36 or 40 hours in a week. Yeah, the guy does 70 hours or even 70 hours or 75 hours. But he's only going to get £10 for each hour. She's going to get 15 hours. But because she's a woman, she has to get 15 hours. For what reason? That's discrimination, whichever way you look at it. But let's see what they say. So, this picture here is just complete and total shit. If he's smiling, it's because he's worked for that. He's probably done much more in the hours, overtime. What's she done? If you're not willing to do the overtime, that's your problem. There is an option with ladies. You don't have to have children. Nobody's forcing it. I mean, look at Theresa May. She doesn't have any kids. She's never had any kids. Okay? She's never had any kids. So you don't have to have children. Anne Whittaker never had children. Never been married. She's always been single. So it can be done. You don't have to have children. You don't have to get married. This is my message to women. If you are getting into a relationship with a guy, and if you get married to a guy, if the guy is looking to have children, and you're saying you're not going to have children, then it's going to be a problem. So my suggestion would be for you is don't get married. Make it very clear to your partner, I do not intend to have children. Then that gives him a chance to decide, does he stay with you, or does he find somebody else who's willing to have children? Because if you're not willing to have children, it's not his fault that he wants children. He's got to find someone who's willing to have children. But bear this in mind, women. One day, in the next 50 years to 100 years, someone is going to be able to produce a child outside of the womb. And once that happens, we will eventually one day probably be able to make a child with certain ingredients from the human body without any contact between a man and a woman. Period. So then, what will then happen then for women? A child will be brought up in an artificial environment, brought alive, and the man will be there to claim that child and say, that is my child. That is my child. Just as equally a woman can say, that is my child. Because the child will not be being produced in the womb. It will be produced out of the womb, in an artificial womb. So the woman won't be able to claim anything more than the man. Because they will equally have provided an egg, sperm. very much almost equal. Except the sperm is alive; it actually moves. It's a moving, living thing. Whereas the egg is alive; it's an organism, but actually comes into more life once the egg is penetrated by the sperm. So, but you know, it goes here. This would help. This would help. Again, affirmative action, positive discrimination. It would really be unequal, unethical. If it's illegal to pay women less than men, it will be illegal for women to pay more than men. It will be illegal. Let's get that into people's heads. It will be illegal to pay women £15 an hour to a man being paid £10 an hour. It will be illegal if they are both doing the same job, exactly the same job, not comparable, exactly the same job, and who are exactly the same grade. But low pay as such is not necessarily the problem. So they now admit low pay as such is not necessarily the problem. If a woman is getting low pay and a man is getting low pay, they both need to be raised up together. That's why you have unions to fight for your rights, to get pay for both genders, not just for one. Paying women less than men for an equivalent job is already illegal after all. You see, this would help, but low pay as such is not necessarily the problem. Paying women less than men for an equivalent job is already illegal after all. This is rubbish. It's total rubbish. You know, I mean, that's the point. You can't pay a woman more because it would be illegal than a man. Because you brought these because back 50, 60 years ago, or whatever, women were being paid less. We all understand that, and that was wrong. So it was changed. But the way women behave as if this was the worst crime in the whole of history of mankind. Men were being discriminated, against. That's why unions were built over the years, because the working class man was not getting a fair wage for fair work. Better training. Many experts advocate better training to get rid of unconscious bias amongst managers. In other words, brainwashing. It's brainwashing. Senior staff may need to work harder to encourage women to seek position. I don't understand this. All right, let's carry on, because this is quite interesting. We know that many men will. We know that many men will put themselves forward for roles. Okay, when they are not ready. Okay. Conversely, many women will not put themselves forward because they don't think they are ready when they are. Holy shit! Can you imagine? And this is again from this Peter Cheese. This is incredible. All this. We know that many men will put themselves forward for roles when they are not ready. Really? Oh, but women themselves. It says it because many women will not put themselves forward because they don't think they are ready when they are. So, in other words, at no point do any women put themselves forward when they are not ready at all. When they are not ready. But it's women, many women put themselves forward because, many women will not put themselves forward because they don't think they are ready. Jesus Christ. When they are. That is just so, I don't know what to make of that. This is what we're up against, men. This is what we're up against. Let me make this point. I'm going to make this statement. If you're a man and you are setting up your own business, if you can employ no women in your business, don't employ any women in your business. And even if you're threatened by outside companies saying we won't work with you because don't employ women, tell them to go, give them the middle finger, tell them to get started and carry on with your business. But we know that at some point, because people are evil, they will get your business shut down. But if you can shut your business down and then open it up as another business somewhere else, still employ men, okay? Because at the end of the day, it seems to be that all this is just becoming nonsense. Women are a problem, and employing women is going to be a danger for a lot of companies. We've got to train line managers better so they can understand where they may have biases about how they think of or treat women. Brainwashing, again. Senior managers should be responsible for changing the culture of the workplace, according to this idiot from CIPD. I profoundly believe this is the time for managers to step up, says Mr. Cheese. What is the tone from the top? What are leaders saying about the gender pay gap? Are they trying to hide from an uncomfortable truth about what's really happening in their own organisation? What uncomfortable truth? That more men get paid higher than women because more men are working more hours than women. More men take less holiday than women. More men take less sick pay than women. What uncomfortable truth are they talking about? Again, I saw on Sky News this afternoon a woman, I think it's called Sterling Bank, owned uh, owned this bank in the city. She herself stated that there is a 24% so-called gender pay gap in her business. How did she allow this to happen? Because of the same factors that occur in many, many businesses. When you have men and women in the same business, there is going to be a gender pay gap, which is not on purpose, but because of circumstances. But this same idiot woman saying that they couldn't do this by themselves, they needed government help. This is what the feminist agenda is consistently. They want the state to consistently pay for everything for women. They want the state to enforce laws against men at every level, especially in the high positions. They want to make sure that men are removed from all leadership positions in this country. Okay. Or are they being open and honest about it? Sport. Number 8. Here we go. Why football? playing football with boys help girls aspire to be better, to better jobs? Well, if women want to aspire to better jobs, they need to set their own businesses. It, I find it quite exasperating that we've heard this mantra for the last 50, 60 odd years that women are better at multitasking. Women are better communicators than men, far, far superior to communication than men, and women are far, far more intelligent than men. Well, if this is the case, why have they not got further than where they are, supposedly? This is what I find extraordinary. You know, there was a female executive in the United Kingdom. I think she's gone to California. She's 64 years of age. She's just, I think, given birth to a child. She gave birth to a child in America at the age of 64. How irresponsible are you to do? Incredible. Incredible. So, this stupid 8-point idea, encouraging girls to play more sport at a young age could build their self-esteem. What I find extraordinary about this, many years ago, many schools were trying to stop school day, sports day, because they didn't want children to be competitive. This is in this country, the UK. They wanted to reduce many of the sports that children did because they saw it as being, too aggressive, etc., etc. Now you're seeing encouraging girls to play more sport. What is it you want? Which is it do you want? Because that's one of the reasons why you look at the England cricket team, it's failing badly. You look at the England rugby team, it's failing badly in comparison to the Southern Hemisphere teams that are, consistently playing well. Because there's a different mindset. I don't think the England rugby team has a good enough quality players in there. There's one or two players that I admire. Johnny Kerr or Tommy, I can't remember, Mr. Kerr, scrum half. Farrell. There's one or two players there, key players there. But when you look at other teams, they have, a much better setup. And I put it down to, it's, you know, kids being forced, being, told you shouldn't be playing sports because it's too competitive. Um, and I'm sure it's too discriminatory to women and to children, to girls. Look at this. Encouraging girls to play more sport at a young age could build their self-esteem. Encouraging them, you can encourage them from here to kingdom come. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. But she wants to do, this Miss Hathorn of Women on Boards UK believes boys and girls should be playing football together until the age of 12. But what happens if the boys don't want to play with the girls? What happens if they don't want to play with the girls? Are boys going to be forced to play netball when they don't want to play netball? Because netball is a girls' game. It is primarily a game that's played amongst girls, and apparently it's very successful. A lot of women play netball. Great. Yeah, more kudos to them. But now you want to force young men to play netball. and many probably don't want to play netball. Netball is a really. I've seen it played when I was younger, and I just thought it was just horrible. I mean, it's just horrible. It didn't like the game at all. Didn't like the way it was played. Just did not like it. There isn't very little cool about netball in comparison to basketball. Uh, Women who have played sport at an international level are seen as leaders by men in the office. Really? Which office? Her office? Their office? I don't know. It could also change their own expectations about what they can do. We know that young girls at the age of 4 believe they can do anything, but by the age of 6, they have a different view. God, there was the women's skull. Those people. I think in the Winter Games just gone, and the woman there stated that I think she said the men and women should be competing together, and what they should do is stop the men from pushing out from the start. So, in other words, they will only be allowed to sit on the pan and it will move forward at its own momentum down the hill. And that way, women will be able to compete with the men. Again, this is the reason why you can't always take women seriously. You're in that sport because you know what the origins of the sports are. So you have that basically like a teacher, more advanced, where you run and you push, you launch yourself off from that with your own body power, and you then move forward to pick up speed. I'm sure she should know that if you don't get enough speed, you're not going to get around the course. So anyway, let's carry on. Women have right. Okay. It could also change their perception, expectation about what they can do, and so on and so on. We've already gone through that. Up to the age of 12, girls are. Listen to this. Up to the age of 12, girls are as strong as boys physically, so they should be playing the same sports. Is there any evidence of that? Or is this something she's just making up? I've not seen any stats. I will be doing a little bit of research on that. Anyway, so this is my take on it. I think to come to a conclusion, what this gender pay gap thing says to me is that you should just get rid of all the men working in all these organisations and immediately put women in. The men should go fishing, play rugby, play cricket, or just go off and do other things and let the women go to work and work in the workplace. Um, I don't know where children will come from. I don't know how children are going to be produced because at the moment, the people who can only produce children at the moment are women. Okay, if we in the future are able to produce a child outside of the womb, that will free up women having to go to work. Having to give birth to children and to carry a child for 9 months. Okay, Look at Superman with Russell, forgotten his name. It's Australian actor who played Superman's dad. Um, It'd been, I think, 1,000 years where no woman had produced a child naturally, and so Superman was produced naturally by his mother. She actually gave birth to him. It wasn't in a cubicle that he was produced, but through natural birth. So that's what's going to happen in the future. That women will lose that position that they have of the bearers of children. Children will be produced out of the womb. Then we will see whether women, what their views are on that. Also, I think men should stop giving sperm to sperm banks. There must be a campaign one day to educate men to say, "Hoi, hold on a minute. These sperm banks need to stop. We should stop encouraging men handing over their sperm for £25, £50, when their sperm is worth probably £1,000 to £2,000. I think there was a project somewhere in the north, in Birmingham, I think, where they were supposed to, a new place. They couldn't find enough people. Not enough men were coming forward to hand over their sperm. And I'm hoping it's closed down by now, because men should not be handing over your sperm to allow lesbian couples to get impregnated. Let them go to the gay men that they normally get their sperm from, and stop handing over your sperm to these people. And if you're going to, you need to be charging at least £1,000 to £2,000 minimum for that. Anyway, I've had my say. Thanks for listening.